Welcome everyone to our episode 123. In today's episode, I have an honor guest, Anu Shrof, and we are going to speak about the power of rest, enjoying the long journey with clarity and strength. As you can see from the title, we are going to speak about pausing, about resting, about really embracing the power of this resilience that we can take from listening more to our body. So, thank you very much, Anu, for being here in the podcast.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you, David, for having me here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, Anu is an experienced strategic planner with a decade long career in both public and private sectors. Anu specializes in executive coaching, leadership facilitation, and strategic planning sessions. Her humanistic approach focuses on guiding individuals through self discovery rather than providing ready made solutions. Anu emphasizes networking and brand projection, highlighting the importance of building relationships in career advancement. Looking ahead, she sees technology as a creative opportunity to enhance coaching and training offerings while staying true to her core values. Anu embodies resilience, adaptability, and a commitment to helping others thrive in an ever changing world. Thank you, Anu.
Oh, thank you for that, David. It's lovely just hearing that intro.
Yeah, it's nice when we hear our intros.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Anu, my first question is, how did you get from this technology business, from this experience of leadership to coaching and helping people, and more into this ironic way of introducing pausing. As we know, these industries and this corporate world is just full of busy people that don't have time to rest. And so let me know what happened with your shift.
Yeah, lovely question right there, David. And you're quite right that many of my clients are very busy people and feel that they don't have the time to rest, don't have the time to kind of reset. In fact, some of them feel that, oh, if I'm resting, I'm resetting, that means I'm not being productive. And that's a common mindset or framing that people come to me when they're doing coaching. So you're absolutely right. That's a very common myth that I see or I hear among my clients. But anyway, just to go back to my story, thank you for asking that question because it kind of brings me back a little bit to my own journey. And as you alluded in my introduction, I was an employee in the Singapore Public Service, had been working for a long time. And I think for me, it really gave me a lot of key values in terms of hard work, in terms of teamwork, and maybe even in terms of knowing yourself, so developing self-awareness. So I do credit my early career, my early bosses and mentors at that point in time to just give me those core values, those very good, I would say, foundation work ethics, if I could say that.
Mhm.
Um, but there was a point in time, and I actually mentioned this in my book because I think this was the pivot for me, that in 2016, there was a point in time where I was looking. So I've got three kids, and back in 2016, they were quite young. They were, 12, 10, and 8. And 12-year-olds in Singapore, they have to sit for a very high stakes exam. And high stakes basically means most time the parents are really involved, and we kind of take some leave from work and really help our kids get through this high stakes exam as a 12-year-old. So for me, that was the pivot. I was like, oh, okay, my daughter is sitting for this exam. What should I do? Should I take no pay leave from work? How many months can I take? And all of those questions, right? So I thought, yeah, I'll just take a few months. I'll go for a retreat and just kind of figure out what I want to do with my life as well. And came back and said, yeah, I think I need to resign so that I can spend not only time with my daughter, but my other two kids, my other two boys. who would be
Mm.
hitting 12, in like 2 years' time and another 2 years' time. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just take a break from career and just see how it goes. So the key thing there for me, David, was firstly, I realized that my daughter didn't really need me to help her. So that was a myth in my head. I don't think I could help her. I don't think I was helping her. So that was the first thing. And maybe it's the second thing, and more importantly, for me, it was a reset. It was
Mm.
literally a reset. And it got me thinking that what can I do going forward in terms of career and helping others?
Mm.
And that's when I started really going into this field of, okay, what is coaching? How does it work? How do I coach others? How do I help others? And bringing that as part of my business, as part of my offering to my clients, and really started exploring from there. So I think the main thing for me, David, was the reset. As much as I thought it was for my kids, actually became for me, and a very important part of where I am today, just taking the reset at that point in time. And the second thing that you said, David, really resonates with me, that for a lot of people, taking that reset, pause, rest is is almost the same as saying, oh, I am not being productive, or how can I take time for myself to, not even going for a retreat, just going to the gym, going and getting a healthy meal, or even something very basic like, I don't know, just getting some sort of massage done or going for a walk in the park, something as simple as
Yeah.
that, nothing too complicated. So I'm beginning to realize that actually these are quite essential if we want to keep ourselves energized, resilient for the long run. And that's where I want to start with, just how do we make ourselves resilient for the long run? This is not a sprint, this is a marathon. So we got to really pace ourselves a little bit.
Oh, I really resonate with that way of thinking because I also struggle in the same way.
Yeah,
When I was in corporate world, I also felt how that stress and sometimes the environment can get toxic. In my case, that
yeah,
was the case.
yeah,
And the boss that I had made my life really
yeah,
difficult, and she helped me or pushed me to take the decision of also shifting completely from what I was doing. And I just felt that kind of stress that it was just draining my energy,
yeah,
and arriving to my home just with enough energy to turn on the TV
yeah,
and plug myself into
yeah,
something that distracted me and
yeah,
sometimes made me laugh, of course. But
yes,
I didn't have energy for other things. Usually, what I do usually, or what saved me also, is that my mornings are always dedicated to exercise.
yes,
So I always have time for that, and that helped me to be more in more attuned to my body, more attuned to the needs that I felt, and that's
yeah,
why I could detect early
yeah,
before I got sick, before something else happened,
yeah,
that I just needed to take a break, as you mentioned, to just pause and say, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
yeah,
I just want to take 1 year to think things off and to see what what attracts me,
yeah,
and that's what I'm gonna do. And as you mentioned, we many times we people, and I include myself, we feel guilty of doing
yes,
that because we feel judged, we feel labeled,
yeah.
and it is just something that society is not used to.
You're absolutely right, David, and everything that you share also kind of brings me to the point that in my book I also talk about the idea of active rest, and really kind of acknowledging that not everybody are comfortable doing meditation or breathing, or the slightly more, I would say, a sedate way of resting, which is just like, oh, I'm just going to look at the flowers. And so they, for them, the idea of rest is actually movement. whether it's exercise, whether it's going for the long bike ride or a long run or a swim or whatever it might be. And that actually is a form of rest for them because it is a solo thing. It's something that gets your endorphins going, gives you that feel good factor, right? And it is a way of resting. So it's just a different when I love what you said about the mind body connection. And I think that is so critical in this work, David, that even you are a holistic coach. I'm sure you also are so in tuned with this idea of the mind body connection. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, many times in the work context, and even I'm guilty of that sometimes, right? That I just get so in my head, like everything is about PowerPoint slides, Excel sheets, the Word document. Let's get it all done. And you kind of forget that there's something below your neck that needs to
Hmm.
be engaged, that that your body is telling you something, and sometimes we don't hear it. We just either we hear it and we ignore it, or we just don't resonate with it. We just just going around like a ghost, which the body is following you. And yeah, and so that connection, I think, is something that we really sometimes missing, including myself.
Yeah, well, I think everyone right now is suffering or struggling with that kind of connection because they always or many times, let's say many times, they separate mind and body, and they
Yes.
know that if the body is hurting, they just take a pill. That's
Yes.
the easiest thing to do to like um, suffocate the symptoms, let's say, or to just ease the pain.
Yeah.
And what they are doing and they don't know is that they are just damaging more their bodies because our inner communication, everything inside of us is being disrupted by stress
Yeah.
and by all of these um, pace and rhythm that
Yes.
we are having.
Yeah.
Actually, I just wrote today an article that is going to be published tomorrow in Medium that talks about the immune system and the
Lovely.
connection with stress and
Yeah.
how when we are stressed, we flood our body
Yeah.
with inflammatory molecules, cytokines, all of these chemical messages that really permeate the brain barrier and
Yeah.
they enter into the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
And that's why we feel that lethargy, that confusion, that foggy brain,
Yes.
or you don't have just energy to be creative.
Yes. Oh wow. I look forward to reading that, David, because everything that you said really again resonates with me. And the importance of our immune system, and even and goes back to a little bit of how do we rest, digest, right? And literally what we take in, the food that we take in, and when we take in, and how do we build our immunity. I think that is such an important topic that sometimes I think doesn't get as much
Attention.
focus attention, you're right, in terms of the key pillars of health, as much as I would like to. So lots of people understand generally that, oh, yes, exercise is good for me. Sleep is good for me. I think sleep is still a bit, not enough
Yeah.
people are having enough of
Eh,
it. But I think generally understand as a foundation of good health. But the immune system, I think, has not gotten enough attention. So absolutely. I really look forward to reading what you have to say to that, David. Yeah.
you will love it because what I can mention right now is just that I have listened to many of my friends, clients,
Yeah.
even family members that they are having diseases that were not common just a few years ago, like hypothyroidism, like more cases of diabetes or insulin resistance, more cases of chronic fatigue, and all of those, let's say, newborn diseases, they are not new. They are just triggered by this pause that we had in this pandemic, and then the shift, the confusion, and then the
Yeah.
stress, the
Yes.
the speed up of the rhythm of
Yeah.
people trying to recover those 3 years.
Yeah.
And what they are suffering in many places, in many companies, is that they are just working 12 hours, 13 hours.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable for anyone.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, David. And you brought up the pandemic, and that just reminds me that there will be circumstances, there will be the context that will also impact our health. So as much as we want to take care of our individual health, there is something about the system, whether it's the people around us, the context we are in. And David, going back to your story when you were sharing that the environment was toxic for you. So even the environment that we are in, and whether it's the bigger economy, all of that can have an impact on how we feel and how we show up and the stress levels and our general well-being, for sure. So you're right about the journey. What I noticed was, obviously COVID was a very hard time for many people around the world.
Yeah.
And I think not only was it hard in terms of just physical wellness and people getting COVID and trying to get over COVID, but
Mhm.
also the disconnect, the social disconnect that many of us face, right? For many months, sometimes even years. So just being disconnected from society, from friends, from
Mhm.
community, I think had an impact on just the way we were able to sustain ourselves, be resilient. And goes back to the idea that ultimately, as humans, we are social creatures and we need that human connection. So you're right. I think that really had an impact on people. And I think some of it we probably are still seeing even today, or at least some things I notice even today. And on top of that, we were chatting a little bit earlier, David, about the use of AI in our work. And I think AI is the next stressor almost that is impacting a lot of people, because the question is, how does this impact my job, my role? What does it mean for my work? Will I have a job tomorrow? And I can hear those questions actually quite a lot, at least in this context of Singapore. It's something that many people are worried about, even in the knowledge industry. So, it's just the idea that the context can have an impact on our stress levels, and sometimes can take us away from this needing to rest and reset, because we are too busy getting worried about what's out there to come back and ground ourselves. When maybe what's needed is even more grounding to who we are because of the changing context.
Yeah, exactly. What you are saying is just really hitting home, let's say, because all of the external world, we cannot do anything.
Yeah,
We really don't have any
yeah,
power over
yeah,
what is going to happen with AI, what is
yeah,
going to happen with the economy, what is going
yeah.
to happen with politics. We don't have any uh, inherence in those things, or we don't have
Yes.
any power. But we have a lot of power in what we are experiencing in our own bodies, in our own mind. And if we don't turn inside, if we don't really start connecting with our bodies,
Mm.
uh, the external world and these circumstances are just going to take us more and more into the spiral
Yeah,
of stress. And
yeah.
that's that's what this I don't know how to put it, but I think that whatever it is that is moving the pieces of the puzzle in a more wide context, from the billionaires and the all the people that is doing this kind of advancement, what they want, these industries, is that we are sick. The
Mm,
sicker we are, the
mm,
easier we are going to consume their products.
mm.
We are going to fall into anything that they tell us, because we are going to trust with blind eyes that what
Yeah,
they are offering is the
yeah,
solution.
yeah,
And that's not at all the solution. The solution is looking more inside,
yeah,
controlling what we can control. That is first our thoughts,
yeah.
and first the things that we listen to, the things that we watch, uh, all of
Read.
those things, starting with the senses. If we
Yeah,
start isolating ourselves a little bit from the noise, from
Yes.
all this chaos that is
Yeah.
just advertised,
Yeah.
we can be better, much better.
Absolutely, David. I mean, some of the words that came to my mind was this idea of addiction, right? And an
Mhm.
addiction not only to smoking or drugs, but even addiction to social media, which is something we are grappling with in society, or even addiction to sugar. All of this is things that ultimately make us not well, and gets us off the balance, right? And as you said, how do we focus on what we are consuming? Now, the consuming doesn't necessarily mean just the food we're eating, but even consumption of what we watch or what we listen to. All of that has an impact on our mind and how we perceive things. So it absolutely resonates with me, David. There's one thing that came to my mind, David, as we were talking about this idea of stress, and maybe just to put it to you and see how this resonates with you.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I I don't think that all stress is bad. And
No.
I'm not sure how to quantify this, but there is this idea that a little bit of it does motivate us. It does make us go into action,
Mhm.
does drive goal oriented in us. So it gives us something to focus on, to move towards, to achieve. And we do need some of that to get us moving. If not, it's going to be a bit of too much of, oh, everything is happening to me and I can't do anything about what's happening to me. And that's one message that I don't want to leave my clients with. I I agree with you. I absolutely say we can't do about anything about the external world. Yes, we can do something about ourselves and the stress that we feel. How do we harness it such that it motivates you to get better, to do better, or maybe to help others? So there is the concept of stress as a motivator rather than stress as a, I don't know, impediment or a demotivator, right? So just seeing it, how we can use it to energize ourselves and move forward. And that's something that's of interest to me because the other thing that I'm noticing among my clients is this lack of motivation and just people feeling that, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not motivated. I'm just going to a job and just coming back. And as you said, just having the energy to switch on something to watch, whether it's
Yeah.
Netflix, and that's about it, and yeah, I have no motivation. So yeah, just the idea of stress, and I don't think all stress is bad. It's a matter of how do we harness it in a healthy way, that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and I love that shift that we are making out to praise, to also encourage to have some stress, because I agree also. I agree that we need that push, that little um, spark of motivation, let's
Yeah,
say, that
I like that.
stress can do for us.
Yeah,
Because this, if we are just apathetic, or we are just lazy, or we are not just being encouraged to do something with our lives, we can pretty easy fall into the other side, that is not doing anything with our
yeah,
lives, just expecting the government to sustain us and
right.
do barely anything, and that's also very toxic. So
Yeah,
I agree that stress, and I think, well, the way that I can share that stress can help you in terms of motivating you is just being uh, connected more with what how you are feeling, how
agree.
your body is
Yeah,
feeling. The
yeah,
body is always speaking to you. The
yeah,
the body is always telling you you are
yeah,
doing too much. Your
yeah,
day, there are some days, and I also am guilty of those things, that you are just really immersed in the things, and you really go and go and go and go
yeah,
until you feel something in your eyes,
yeah,
for example,
yeah,
until you feel something in, and I don't know, you feel completely or very, very thirsty, or
yeah,
you feel just you start to feel the build up of stress that is
yeah,
telling you enough is
yeah,
enough. I know that you can finish today
Yes,
everything that you wanted,
yes,
but it's enough, no?
yeah,
And
yeah,
if we listen more to those signals that are
yes.
just telling you in the most subtle, polite, and kind way that you need to rest, that you need to turn off the computer or whatever you are doing, you are just going to pass the line, which is very, very thin. It's just a really thin line that we can pass and move into the chronic stress. And the other stress that is good, that leaves you, I think that leaves you curious about what is going to happen
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
What am I going to do tomorrow? Because if you finish everything today, you are not going to have anything tomorrow. So just leave something for tomorrow, and that's it.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm smiling so much, David, because when you said about, sometimes we are so focused on our work that you kind of don't listen to your body. It happens to me, David. And can you imagine I'm in this line of work and it happens to me. So, we are all human. Even we fall off the bandwagon, right? And for me, what I realize it's my like almost my hip joint. It becomes so stiff and I'm like, oh my god, I can hardly walk right now because I've been sitting so long focused on my work
Mm,
that your my body is telling me it's time to get up and walk. You've done enough.
yeah.
And you sitting here is not productive at all because it's a bit of a diminishing returns, right? That you might think that you're doing work, but actually you're done. Your mind is spent already. It's better you take a walk
Yeah.
and take a break and come back the next day. And I love the thing that you said, David, that stress that leaves you curious. So the idea of curiosity, the idea of what's going to happen tomorrow. Why do we need to finish everything today? Let's leave something for tomorrow, and that gives us that motivation to kind of keep going as well. Yeah, I love that, David.
I also was thinking about an analogy with food because also sometimes you are so hungry
Yeah,
or you have some emotions turning your hunger into something that is extra and you are just eating and eating and eating mindlessly
yeah,
without also listening that you are
yes,
full, that you are satiated,
yes,
and it's the same message. Whenever
yeah,
we feel that our body is full when we are eating, that's enough.
that's
That's the
enough.
point where you
Yeah,
have to stop eating and
yeah,
you have to leave some food for
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. Oh, again, absolutely. Which is, it goes back to my earlier thing I was saying about just getting addicted to sugar, right? Because it's one of the things that just keeps you eating, whether it's
Mhm.
that
Exactly.
lovely cake or chips or whatever it is, and you're just like, it's in your mouth. So, just, the point that you're mentioning here, David, the awareness of your body, is really critical for health. I think that's it would kind of so fundamental that I almost wish that we would teach kids to start listening to their bodies rather than just kind of listening to or doing academics. I wish we would start early, but anyway, never too late. We start now.
Can I share something that I'm doing right now
Please do. Yeah.
to shift my schedule of working?
Yeah.
I
Please.
was reading a book. I don't remember really right now the title, but it's about productivity and it's about bouts or blocks of productivity. And more or less, the block of time that the book suggests is 25 minutes. For me, it was a little bit short, so I just increase it a little bit to 40 minutes. And every 40 minutes, what I do is that I shift from being seated to standing up because I have a desk that can be raised, and I just shift between 40 minutes seated, 40 minutes standing up. And from those two blocks, I rest in
Mm,
between. I
mm,
rest 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and I close my eyes. And
mm.
sometimes I do a very short meditation, guided meditation. Sometimes I just listen to the birds and to nature, and I just rest. I just rest my body close my eyes, and that's it. And I have felt, I just started this routine or this ritual like more or less 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I have felt completely different. I never finish depleted. I never finish like I don't know. Sometimes also when you are stressed, you start losing the motivation to do what you are doing,
Yeah.
enjoying your work.
Yeah.
That's what happened with many people right now because you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that
Yeah.
in the industry or in the corporate world
Yeah.
they tell you I'm not motivated. Of
Yeah.
course you are not motivated because if
Yeah.
you are working seated
Yeah.
12 hours and you
Yes.
are being pressured and you have a lot of
Yeah.
stimuli,
Yeah.
notification, mails, meetings,
Yes.
demands from even from your
Yeah.
family when you arrive,
Yeah.
you don't have uh, this reset that is
Yeah.
also in your book,
Yes.
this reset
Yeah.
button to say,
Yeah.
just rest, just rest.
Yeah. I love that, David. I'm absolutely going to use that. This idea of the blocks of time, and
Mhm.
then it's almost like a very purposeful break in between. It's very mindful. It's almost like saying that's it. Even though you might feel like I'm in the flow, you're taking that purposeful rest, pause, and then getting back to it, right? And I love the idea that it refreshes you, it gives you the energy, the motivation to kind of keep going because yeah, we are in this for the long run. So we need that resilience. And your story, David, just reminded me, if I just go back to a little bit of the corporate world, because I think this message is not only for individuals, it's actually meant for leaders, for team
Mhm.
leaders,
Yeah.
managers, for organizations, right? Now, obviously, in an organization, this might show up a little bit differently as a corporate rest. But I remember when I was back in, as an employee, um, one of my leaders, we had a situation. So it was sort of an emergency situation. Well, emergency, not a life and death, but it was critical enough that there was something had messed up, that some mistake had been made, which
Yeah.
required our immediate attention, right? And I remember just walking into his room. A few of us were gathered around there thinking what we're going to do about this particular situation. And I thought he's going to tell us, okay, you going to do this, you're going to do this, I know you're going to do this, the other person you're going to, so a bit of barking orders, right? I thought that's what's going to happen and go and do this. But he literally I mean, I'm amazed that at that point in time I didn't recognize this, but he literally took a pause. He took a rest. He just said, okay, guys, let's just pause right now and let's just figure out what caused this? Like, what's going on here? How are you feeling? What do you think we need to get better? And I'm like, what? Why are you asking questions right now? Let's just get on with the action, right? But in that moment, and it didn't take very long, maybe like 10, 15 minutes of this, what's going on, how are you feeling, and that kind of questions, right? But in that 10, 15 minutes, the shift was amazing, David. I mean, yes, we got it sorted out, we got that issue sorted out. But what it did for us in the long run was it built a huge level of trust and respect for him and the team. And after that, you can imagine anytime any of us had to do extra work or, extra projects with him, we were like, yeah, I'm going to do it. He is a leader who I absolutely feel that has got our back, who understands what it means to take the rest at the right time. So it's easy to take rest when we are not stressed, when there's a lot of time. It's even more challenging when you're doing it right in the heat of the moment. And to have that presence of mind to say that right now, yes, the action is important, but what's important also is to take a step back and have a perspective of what's truly going on here and where are the shifts we need to make, which is the thing that I want to bring into organizations. Many organizations have, whether a day of doing strategic planning or they do a retreat or and any of that, right? So many organizations have that as part of their corporate planning cycle. And sometimes people feel, oh, this is just another one, or we're
Yeah.
going to do this again. We did this last year, we did this a year ago, and everything. But I feel it's really needed, and I think it really helps people to come together as a team, as an organization, to really even just ask this question, how are you? What do you need? And to be felt that they are seen and heard. If not, people feel that I'm just a number,
Number.
I'm not seen and heard. I'm just a unit in the clog of machinery, right? So how do we start making connections? And resting can be a way. Obviously, in this case, it's an organizational rest, but it can be a way to make connections with people. So that we don't feel alone. That I'm not alone. We are a community. We are people who care for each other. So yeah, I thought I'd just share the thing about the organizational reset or rest being important as well.
No, I loved your example because that's what we need, that
Yeah,
kind of leadership that also, for me, I would just label it as holistic leadership,
yeah,
which is something that you really need to do in order
yeah.
to motivate, to give stress to your employees, but good stress, the stress that
Yes,
will leave them
yes,
motivated, the stress that will leave them inspired
yeah,
to follow you, to do the
yes,
things that you are saying, and
yeah,
also to, as you mentioned, to just recognize that you have a life, uh,
yeah,
in spite of the job that you are doing, in spite of
yeah,
whatever it is that you are dedicating your life for. You also have another big part of your life where friends, where family, where of course, your children, your spouse, everyone is there, and they need time. And that's something that just bring my mind to the connection of also when we are very stressed, when we are in these kind of jobs that and with this leadership that is toxic, what usually happens is that you start isolating from everyone
you're right.
slowly,
Yeah,
slowly, because you don't have time
yeah,
first. That's
yeah,
the number one excuse. The
yeah,
second one is you don't have energy.
yeah,
The third one that I can think of is that your mood is completely destroyed. You
yeah,
you are just angry.
yeah.
Many part of the time you are angry, or you are just lethargic, let's
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I absolutely. I mean, your word about people isolating themselves is really true, and I think that's the thing about bringing people together, that they get a feeling that they're not alone. And sometimes this isolation is very you're not really aware that you're doing it. It's not like today I'm
No?
going to isolate myself. It's not really that. You don't recognize it, you don't realize it, because as you said, I'm just busy, just doing my work, or I'm feeling the anger, frustration, and I'm kind of keeping it to myself. I'm not really speaking it out. And so the connections that we can allow people to have in a safe space can really help people let go of that. At least feel that I'm not alone. I'm not the only one feeling this, and there is something that I can do to help myself, or there is someone who can perhaps just guide me a little bit and show me the way a little bit. And David, we are both coaches, and I'm sure you've been coached yourself. I've been coached myself. I still have a mentor. And even in this line of work, we all need guidance. It's
Yeah.
always so nice to have that guidance once in a while, that direction, that advice, that shoulder, that trusted someone, right? I think we all need it. It's hard to do this work without that support.
Yeah, it's so true also that we, of course, that we sometimes talk about those things and we say we also have done that, we also suffer of that,
Yeah.
because we are humans and
Yes.
we are we are just wired in that way. Sometimes we are
Yeah.
pressure, we are programmed, we
Yes.
have lots of things that interact with the way we are
Yeah.
just uh, evolving in our lives. And
Yeah.
I think that's also the beautiful part of this work that we are doing. We we speak from experience. We speak because we also have suffered many of those things, and we recognize when other people can go into those spirals,
Yes.
going down and just feeling
Yeah.
depleted, uh, lonely. all of
Yeah.
those things, and we can empathize with them,
Yes.
you know, and
Absolutely.
that's I think that's also the beauty of this work, that we empathize with people, and we say, don't be so stressed about all the things that you have to change or all the things that you have to do. Just to start with very simple things, very, very slow. Nobody's pressing you, and nobody's going to measure the time that you are going to take. No.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another beautiful message right there, David, that nobody's going to measure the time you're going to take. So you can take a week, month, a year, 10 years. It really doesn't matter because this is lifelong. And I think we've been sharing with each other, David, that even we fall off the bandwagon. So we talk about this, and sometimes even I forget. So yeah, we're going to keep falling off and coming back on, and falling off, coming back on. And that's what makes life interesting. Life
Yes,
journeys interesting
exactly.
and curious, going back to your word. I love that. Yeah.
Thank you, man. So, to summarize and to grab all this
Yeah.
message, what can you tell people that, let's say, give me just three things that people can start doing in order to be more, to enjoy more the long
Mhm.
journey, to reset, to
Yeah.
pause, and to live life really fully.
Oh, wow. Okay. My three things. I've got so many, David, that I'm running it through my mind right now. But I'll start with a very basic because I think without this one thing, I wouldn't be where I am today. So the one thing I would say is definitely focus on your breath, your breathing. The mind body connection is through our breath. There has been so much of literature written about this that we could spend hours just talking about the breath. So there's enough out there for people to Google, to YouTube, to go find literature on it. But just focus on your breath, even if it's just taking 3 deep breaths, literally now. And I'm going to do that myself. And David, honestly, if from this podcast, this is the one thing that they take away. This is the one thing that they take away. Focus on your breath because this is something you can do at any point in the mid sentence. You are doing a presentation to your boss. You are having a conversation with your spouse. You can feel your emotions going up. Take 3 deep breaths. It will really just anchor you. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is um, my top secret to being an author, and I'm sharing it here, is to keep a journal. In fact, keep many journals. I'm only looking around because I've got like I think I can count I think 6 or 7 journals. So take the idea of journaling as a habit because it helps us in regulating ourselves. It helps us in regulating our emotions. It's actually a sort of almost therapeutic, I think, to just write down. So even if it's just writing down 3 good things that happened to me today or 3 things I'm grateful for, just believe me, just do it. It's just write things down is a huge way of de-stressing ourselves because sometimes a lot of stress is in our mind is imagined because it's just floating. It's just somewhere and we can't hang on to it. So even if it's just making a list of things that you need to get done or 3 good things that I'm grateful for, any of that, or even just drawing. Some people are really good with drawing. Just draw it out. Just all I'm saying is put your pen to paper is really going to just help a lot with your stress levels. And the third, David, actually, you kind of alluded to it. Some form of movement. Now, I don't say the word exercise
Yeah.
because not everyone wants to do that every single day. So I've kind of stopped using the word exercise and I've started using the word movement because for me, movement is David, the tip that you gave is brilliant, even if it's from sitting to standing and then going back to sitting, right? Even that is movement. So in a day, if you can move, and if there's nothing else, but I've got a bottle of water here. So every time I'm done with that water, I will go and to the kitchen and fill it up. And, so for me, it's that small little nudges you can put in your life that forces movement. I mean, it's a very small movement, but it is reminding me that please move, don't sit there. So I would say breath work, some sort of journaling, and movement. If you bring these three small things into your life, there will be a multiplier effect that, as you said, will build up over time.
Thank you. Thank you, Anu. I completely agree with the three of them. And I also relate a lot with that analogy of water.
Mhm.
And just one quick idea that people can start doing if they want to move a little bit more is instead of having a bottle of water near them, I don't know if it looks like that, just put a glass of water
Yeah,
because you will finish faster the glass
faster. Yeah.
and you will go a little bit two or three or four times at
Yeah.
least to go and fill it up. So
Agreed. Agreed. All the little nudges in our lives, right, David? Oh,
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you, Anu, for this amazing podcast, for this amazing episode. And just to close up, where can people find you and support you?
Lovely question. I have a website, www.anushrof.com.
Okay,
Everything that you need to know about me or my social media handles is all on my website.
perfect.
They can also find me on LinkedIn. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So definitely look me up there. But my website has everything. It has my connection to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and my book, which is just newly been launched, and it's already the number one Amazon bestseller. So
Oh,
thank you so much for the support.
congratulations.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you, Anu. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And as usual, I just encourage everyone to give us suggestions, questions, and what do you think about this stress and the pauses? And what are your strategies? You can always share with us. What are you doing to decompress, to detoxify the stress? Thank you. And we will listen to each other on our next episode. Bye.